I'm going to call this pedalboard 102, this video. It makes sense to me because I decided to title my previous video on pedalboard 101, so it makes a lot of sense. I'll put a link in the down the description to that one, but if you remember, if you've seen it already, in that video I basically explained the fact that I've got all these pedals that I want to put on a board, and the takeaway from it was that I was going to spend a little bit of time experimenting, using the pedals and just laying them out in a way that made sense to me before actually fitting them to the board. So that's where I left the 101 video. So we've got some progress. I've got the pedals attached to the board. Now, the first thing to stress is that this is not the finished article. This probably won't be how, it definitely won't be how the pedal board ends up looking by the time I finish with it, but it's the pedals may move and some changes might take place. Now, the process of setting up a pedal board, as with any other gear, to me, the way that I perceive it, the way that I see it, is it's a bit of an evolution. You try things, you see what works for you, and when something doesn't work out, or when you think something can be made better, then you change it at that point. Now, I have had a good play with the pedals just on the floor and tried to figure out what layout, what organisation seems to work well for me, but time is limited, so that's just going to be an ongoing process. So the layout, the setup that I've got at the minute that you're looking at is the best guess that I could come up with during that process over the last few weeks when I've been playing with this after recording the 101 video. So this is where we're at now. This is a point in time. This will change. There's definitely some things that are going to change that I'm not happy with already, and I'll talk about those in the fullness of the video. Now, the first thing is, when I'm talking about the layout of the pedals, where I've got my pedals on my board, that is personal to me. Do not have a look at what I'm doing and think that's the only way to do it or the best way to do it. For various reasons, the type of music that you enjoy playing, the type of pedals that you use, the way that you play and the way that you interact with your equipment and your pedals, all that stuff comes into the decision making process. So just because this works for me at this moment isn't something that you might necessarily want to copy. You want to do it the way that works for you. So rather than saying this pedal should go here, this pedal should go there, what I'm trying to do is just show you my thought process in terms of how I've put this together. I did mention in the previous video that I'm sort of concentrating on the pedals that I might use most commonly. I want those to be accessible to me as a priority, rather than those that I might not use as commonly. Part of that went into the process, but then again I moved some pedals around and made it fit and work for me. I'm not worried at this point about the cables. I'll talk about that afterwards. So what I mean by that is, whatever cables you've got when you're setting these things up to start with, if you don't have the correct cable to put the pedals where you want them, don't make your decision based upon that. You can always buy another cable. Your pedals want to be where you want them to be, and you can change the cables or how they attach later. So your convenience and your ease of use are your most important things when it comes down to this. Now, I say this will change. I'll talk about the first thing that I want to change about this because I'm not happy about it. My plan was, by using a pedal board, I wanted to have this board and the pedals attached and connected between themselves, but not have big long nasty cables like this thing hanging off them when it's not in use. Any long cables I want to be able to plug in and plug out, so that I've just got this board that fits nicely in its case when it's not being used, and I don't have things like this bundled up. See, bit of an OCD thing for me, a bit of a cable management tidiness. I really don't like that. Now, this is a bit of an anomaly. This cable is the cable that connects my amplifier foot switch to my amplifier. It came this way. The cable is attached to the foot switch. It's what they call a captive cable, so it's not one that I can easily plug in and plug out. So that's why it is this way at the minute. It's not going to stay this way. I've decided already that I'm going to actually modify this and make it so that I can just connect a cable in and out of this foot switch, so that I don't have this thing permanently stuck on here, packed away in the bag with this nice neat bit, and ruining the overall effect. Secondly, the reason I want to change this is that this is a fixed length cable. What I've also kind of decided going forward is that I'll have a few different lengths of cable, so that if I'm using this this setup here in my room with the amplifier behind me, I don't need long cables. I only need a couple of 3 meters, and I can connect the whole thing together. So I'll have a cable set for doing that, and I'm going to have a secondary set of cables if I want to play in a live environment, if I'm playing on a stage or something like that, where the amplifier is further away from me, and I might need a greater length of cables, 5 meters, 6 meters, 10 meters, whichever, but I don't want to permanently have long cables connected when I don't need them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this foot switch. I'm going to put a socket in there rather than it being connected permanently, and once I've done that I can just use a regular, it's called a TRS, you might better know it as a stereo jack cable, but that's what connects that to the amplifier. This amplifier foot switch is completely separate from everything else on the board. There's no signal, there's no guitar signal or sound going into or through or out of this foot switch. All this does is make changes to the settings on the amplifier, so my sound doesn't pass through that. So this is a separate switch anyway, a separate foot switch from all the others, which makes it a little bit easier to do the modification that I've just talked about, but it's completely separate from the others. Everything else on here, my guitar cable, my guitar signal, is going to pass through. So I'm going to tidy that up and make it so that it fits nice and neatly. Now, with that being said, let's assume that's tidied up. The layout of the pedals that I've gone for is what I feel is going to work for me at this moment, and I can change them. I'll cover that in the next video actually. What should we do, 1 or 3? The next video, but I can change them if I want to, but you've got to start from somewhere, so I've decided to start from here. Now, some people will look at this and have their own thoughts and their own comments, and that's fine. If you've got your thoughts and comments, drop them in the comments. It'd be lovely to hear from you. One thing that someone said to me already, I've not posted this obviously because I'm just recording it now, but someone's seen this board, a friend of mine, and said, why have you got your wah-wah pedal in the middle of the board? And I didn't really think about that, it's just how I had it. So I looked at some other videos and pictures of how other guitar players have it. Usually it's on one side of the board, left side, right side, maybe the right footed, left footed, and choose to use it that way. I've got a bit of a quirk myself. I don't know if it's good practice or not, it probably isn't the best practice, but sometimes I go for my wah-wah pedal with either my left foot or my right foot. So it made sense to me in that respect that it's kind of centrally located so that I can access it with either. Most people probably don't do that. I'm not really aware of anyone else that does that, but as I say, this works for me. It not necessarily might be the solution for you, so you set it up however you want it. If you want it on the side, put it on the side, either side that you want to go for with either foot. The other reason for that, which is more of a reason that I can explain in a practical way, is the way that I tend to use that effect. Is I use it predominantly, well, almost always, when I'm playing a guitar solo rather than a rhythm part in the middle of a song. So when I use the wah effect, it'll be at a specific point in the song, and at that point I will probably, usually, as well as use that effect, change my amplifier channel sound or add a boost, which is here, or a delay to the sound, as well as using that. So I've got all these other switches that I might want to use in conjunction with this quite close together on either side of this pedal. So if I want to, if I'm playing away in a song and I want to go for a solo and I want to change my amp sound and then jump on my wah, I can go from here to here and I'm good to go. Even if I don't want to change my sound, if I want to add a delay, which I quite often do when I'm playing that type of sound, and then jump on my wah. I can go from here to here and I'm good to go. So it kind of made sense to me to have it that way. The amp channel switcher I commonly use, that's probably the most common thing I would use. My delay, I wanted that close to my wah-wah, and also my boost, if I wanted to boost the level, again, I might use that in that same scenario. So these are all there for easy access. These are the closest ones to my feet. This is the front of the board as we're looking at it. My chorus pedal, I tend not to use that much in the things that I play, and more often than not I've found that this will be switched on at the start of a song and it will more or less stay on throughout the song depending on what I'm playing. I might switch it in and out, but it's not used as much as the other ones. The tuner pedal, I use that frequently, but not whilst I'm playing. So in between songs, that's when I'll do my tuning. I'm not going to start doing tuning in the middle of a song, so it's okay for that to be a little bit further away. So that's the layout I've gone with. I might change this layout as I use it more and find that, oh, hang on a minute, I want this there, I want this here. They're not quite positioned exactly as I want them at the moment for cabling reasons. I've got a straight cable coming out of here, whereas I'm going to change that for a right angle cable so I can just move the pedals around a little bit more and organise that. But I'm going to talk about cables more in the next video. But that's my basic layout. That's what I'm going with for now, and certainly since I've got it all set up and all running, wired, it works. So it's a great thing for me to enjoy.